Did you know? Before Egypt or Rome, before kings or maps, there was Mesopotamia. 5,000 years ago, they invented writing, time, math, and law. But what they really created was civilization itself. And the forgotten truth behind it all is shocking. Today, most people don't even know Mesopotamia existed. Yet without them, our modern world wouldn't make sense. In the next few minutes, you'll discover breathtaking secrets buried in clay, lost kings who ruled like gods, and ancient inventions that still shape your daily life, even if you've never heard their names. Thousands of years before the word civilization even existed, a strange thing began to happen somewhere between two muddy rivers. Picture this. It's 10,000 BC. Most of humanity is still hunting, gathering, running for survival. But in modern-day Iraq, between the Tigris and Euphrates River, a few tribes decide to do something completely unnatural. They stop, they settle, they till the soil, and in that moment, history splits in two. From that decision, out of mud, sweat, and time, Mesopotamia is born. The name literally means land between the rivers. But what they created here was far more than a place. It was a transformation of what it meant to be human. They built cities, not huts. They built roads, organized economies, hierarchies, gods with job titles. By 4000 BCE, these weren't just small settlements anymore. They were grand, divine cities, Uruk being the crown jewel. It had walls, architecture, and temples larger than anything else on Earth. It was the first time humans turned dust into dominion. And one question still haunts historians to this day. How did they know how to do all this? They had no precedent, no other nations to copy. So where did this intelligence come from? You're about to find out. But first, let's talk about the one thing they created that changed everything. It looks crude, a square tablet of clay covered in strange wedge-shaped marks. Most would brush right past it in a museum. But this is cuneiform, the first recorded written language in human history. Invented by the Sumerians around 3000 BCE, cuneiform wasn't used for novels or poetry. It began with accounting. Clay tablets recorded grain, livestock, taxes, trade. See, writing wasn't artistic back then. It was about one thing: control. If you could write the numbers, you could rule the food, control the workers, feed or starve an army. Sound familiar? This wasn't just the birth of writing. It was the birth of bureaucracy, contracts, debt, ownership. The systems we still live under today all started with a reed stylus, a clay tablet, and a civilization no one talks about anymore. But why stop there? They didn't, because next, they decided to measure the universe itself. They invented time, not the flow, but the measure. 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour. That comes from Mesopotamia. They used a base 60 system, not 10 like we do, not even 12, 60. To this day, we still tell time their way, not because it's best, but because they were first. It's wild, right? We build skyscrapers, fly planes, code cryptocurrency. But your phone clock still clings to a Babylonian math system from 4,000 years ago. How many other forgotten Mesopotamian fingerprints shape your life? More than you think. Because the next invention was even more dangerous. By 2334 BCE, the region is no longer just a cluster of city-states. Now, it's ripe for conquest. And out of the city of Akkad comes a man named Sargon the Great. He's born into obscurity, possibly an orphan, a cupbearer, a nobody. Yet somehow he rises, quickly, violently. Sargon builds the world's first true empire. Not just a city, not a kingdom,
an empire. He conquers Sumer, unites Akkad, spreads his rule from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean Sea. And then he shocks the world. He declares himself not just king, but appointed by the gods, a divine figure on earth. Sound familiar? Because from pharaohs to Caesars, this is where the divine ruler model was born. From Sargon, from Mesopotamia. But wait, how does a man with no royal blood, no noble family, become the world's first emperor? That secret lies in an even older legend. Before Batman, Sherlock, or Achilles, there was Gilgamesh, half man, half god, king of Uruk. But Gilgamesh wasn't just a hero. He was the star of what's widely considered the oldest story ever written, the Epic of Gilgamesh. Preserved on clay tablets in cuneiform script, this isn't just some tale. It's a philosophical epic. Gilgamesh faces mortality, grieves the death of his closest friend, searches for eternal life, and fails. Let that sink in. Thousands of years before Hamlet or the Odyssey, the Sumerians were already writing stories about the meaning of life, death, love, and legacy.
How many modern minds don't even know that Mesopotamia wrote the first existential crisis in history? And here's where it gets even deeper. There's a flood myth in the Epic of Gilgamesh, a massive flood that wipes out mankind. A man chosen by the gods survives by building a boat. Sound familiar? Thousands of years before the Bible was written, this story existed in Mesopotamian cuneiform. Coincidence or connection? Scholars still debate it, but either way, it shows one thing. These people were asking the same questions we still ask today. Let's run it down. They invented writing. They invented the wheel. They gave us time and a 24-hour day. They developed calendars based on the stars. They created irrigation, taxation, and centralized law. And oh yeah, let's talk about law. Way before Hammurabi, Mesopotamian kings like Ur-Nammu wrote legal codes on tablets that spelled out rights, duties, and punishments. You cheat on your spouse? There's a law. You steal a goat? There's a law. Blueprints for the systems we still argue about today. And it was all done under the sun in cities made of mud brick by people who didn't have iron, didn't have the wheel for transport, and didn't even have glass. Just clay, brain power, and time. So why did it all vanish? Why don't we hear about Mesopotamia like we do Greece, Rome, or Egypt? That part of the story is heartbreaking, and it starts with a collapse almost no one saw coming. Around 2004 BCE, cities like Ur and Uruk were thriving. But in a few short decades, everything changed. Clay tablets begin talking about droughts, famine, inflation, raids. Then the temples go quiet, buildings crumble, populations flee. Ancient Sumer, gone. What happened? Scholars point to a mix of climate change, salinization of soil, overfarming, water mismanagement. Sound familiar? History's first recorded civilization collapsed under the weight of its own systems. And maybe that's why we don't remember them, because what they built mirrored what we're still building. But Mesopotamia didn't disappear completely. Buried beneath dust, clay, and legend lay their blueprints, waiting for archaeologists thousands of years later to unearth them again. This story matters because Mesopotamia was us before we were us. In their challenges, we see echoes of our own. Inflation, politics, water problems, power consolidation, religious control, identity crisis, existential dread. They weren't primitive, they were first. And first is never perfect. It's messy, it's glorious, it's tragic. Their inventions, time, writing, law, empire, have become so common we don't question where they came from, but they came from somewhere. They came from here. From the muddy banks of the Tigris and Euphrates, from kilns and clay, from people with no blueprint, only instinct and imagination. We owe them more than credit. We owe them our entire foundation. And yet, we almost forgot them. That says more about us than it does about them. So, what would you have done if you ruled Mesopotamia back then? Drop your thoughts below. And if this gave you a new perspective on history, you know what to do. Hit subscribe.